I'd like to do a quick demo of what the rotors are and what it means to use one. I've been reading about the Solaris for years, and I pre-ordered mine a good long while ago. And, you know, I'd read about it and read about it and read about it, and just really kind of, I was like, all right, I'll figure this out one day, because I just didn't get what it meant. So here's a quick demo of what they do. Right now we're looking at Rotor 1, and that is, if we went to the mixer panel, you'd see that is what we're hearing. Let me see if I can pan over slightly. So the input, the only input for the mixers is Rotor 1, so there's nothing else, no other sound source. And as you can see, the inputs for Rotor 1 are oscillators 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the rotors have 4 inputs, up to 4 inputs, and you can pretty much use anything you want. So oscillators, mixers, filters, any audio input whatsoever can be an input for the rotors. So this is the simplest demo of the rotors, and I'll go to the next screen, and you can see that all 4 oscillators are at the maximum level, and the rotors are at a 0.5 hertz. That's the rotation speed, and that'll be clear when I play it. And the crossfade is set to 0. So here's what the basic rotor sound is. And what you're hearing is the rotor is going through each oscillator. Every half second it's changing to the next one. So it's a kind of weird, unique sound that's not incredibly useful this way, but it's very raw. But what you can do is set the crossfade to a much higher value. And now you can't really, again, it's emphasize the difference between the sounds, but the higher you go, the less distinction between the different sounds there are. But now we set the crossfade back to 0. So, as you can see, it's really interesting, because basically it's a mixer, but it's a mixer that you can modify with almost anything that you want. And as a demonstration of this, what I've done is I've programmed the mod wheel to not do modulation, but instead let me see if I can show it. Yeah, the mod wheel controls the amount which is affecting the pitch. Now the pitch of the rotor means the speed at which it rotates. So let's go back to the oscillators, and now I'll hold that down again. And again, it won't be incredibly musically useful, but it's a good demo of what's going on. So same sound, and now I'm going to slowly turn the mod wheel up, and that's increasing the rate that the rotor spins, quote unquote. And that's still kind of cool. Now we're headed for sample and hold territory. And now it's starting to get fast. And one of the crazy cool things about the Solaris is that it's not just modulations, but I can goose this thing, and it's going to start to sound nasty. You can have the modulations go up into the audio realm. So not only are you hearing 4 different oscillators in sequence, you can go wild and rotate that sequence so that it's at an audio speed. And that way you can take almost any input, any of the 4 inputs to the rotor, and you don't have to use all 4. You could just use 2. You could use 1, but I'm not quite sure what the point of that is, because there's nothing to rotate. But you don't have to use normal oscillator tones. You can rotate through anything. And one of the cool things is, for the sources, instead of oscillator 1, 2, 3, and 4, what you can do is have one of the sources of rotor 1 be rotor 1 itself, and that's just a crazy, insane thing to do. And there's actually one of the sounds, oops, set that off. There's one of the presets that I just accidentally, that uses the rotors, and this is how I was learning what the rotors did. One of the presets for the rotors, I accidentally, in playing around with it, made rotor 1 as a source for its own, one of the 4 sources, and it was just the most amazing sound. So I'll see if I can remember which one it was, because it was a week ago and I knew I should have written it down. But anyway, that is a quick demo of the rotors, and I totally understand that this is a crazy sound and not unbelievably useful musically, but what you can do is say you're using 2 sources, one a triangle wave and one a square wave. Now, normally to get motion in a synth, what you do is you would do pulse width modulation, or modulate one oscillator, so it's just a tiny bit detuning in and out from the other. But what you can actually do here is have one oscillator be one sound, and have the other one input be one sound and another input be another sound, and you can slowly, using the crossfade, go back and forth between the two, so that the listener just isn't aware at all that there's any change going on. They're not consciously aware, but the sound gets this incredible motion and movement, and you can make unbelievable textures this way. So the rotor feature is just simply unbelievable. And one of the cool things is that there's 4 mixers, so you can have the inputs of the rotor be different mixers. So that way you can route 2 oscillators to mixer 1 and route 2 other oscillators, or whatever sound sources you happen to want, to mixer 2, and use the 2 mixers as inputs to the rotor. So it just goes on, and when I try to describe the Solaris to people in 5 words or less, I basically say it's a polyphonic modular synth, and no one believes me, but that's really what the thing is. It's just an amazing instrument, incredibly powerful.